The right-wing so-called militia that took over a federal building in Oregon had an incident yesterday. HuffPost reports here. Eamon Bundy, leader of the month-long militant occupation of the wildlife refuge in Oregon, was arrested in a highway confrontation with law enforcement that killed one of his followers and wounded another. Bundy and 4 followers, including his brother Ryan, were arrested during a traffic stop in which shots were fired. Killed was Robert Lavoy Finicum, who had acted as spokesman for the armed group of occupiers. The FBI said the shooting happened when agents, along with Oregon State troopers, began an enforcement action on Highway 395 to arrest people involved in the armed occupation on charges of conspiracy to impede officials from discharging their duties. Finicum, a rancher from Arizona with 11 foster children, made headlines this month after conducting an interview from beneath a blue tarp on live television while carrying a rifle on his lap. During another interview with NBC, Finicum said he was willing to die rather than be arrested and cautioned authorities against pointing a gun at him. "I have no intention of spending any of my days in a concrete box," he said. "There are things more important than your life, and freedom is one of them." So, what has been the response here? The response has been, they doubled down. Let's take a look at one of the videos that was just released by one of these so-called militiamen at this occupation.
Media's been waiting for a bloodbath this whole time we've been here. Now there's going to be one and they're running. They're told to run because the feds don't want to know who's murdering us. American people better wake up, get here, and fight for your country. Right now, it is on.
What you gonna do? What you gonna do when the militia comes after you, FBI?
Every time I watch one of those things, I try to imagine the response in the media and elsewhere if that was a jihadist. And he said almost exactly the same things and ended it with, Allahu Akbar! I think there would be a little bit of a different response. If it was the Crips or the Bloods occupying some sort of federal building, it would be a different response. There were stories about when it actually happened, where black militants took over a building and then the government just burned it down. And don't get me wrong, guys, I'm in favor of a smart approach in all circumstances. So I'm not saying, hey, you would have done the wrong thing with blacks and Muslims, so do the wrong thing now with these white right-wing occupiers. No, I'm in favor of intelligence across the board here. But it's interesting to think of the double standard and how this would be perceived differently. Now, in the incident, it's amazing because the leeway that was given to these guys from day one, I don't know if you know this, they literally let them come and go as they please. We're talking about people who came in with guns, took over a federal government building, and said, we're going to stay here until we get our demands met, and their demands are weird, and nobody even knows, they're not really all that consistent. And they can just go back and forth and fucking go to the store and come back. Literally. That's why they were driving on the highway. People who were like the head of this takeover, they're just driving on the highway. Like, yeah, that's cool. Where they allow us to go back and forth. And then finally, after over a month, apparently the government was like, okay, let's get a little serious here and at least set up fucking checkpoints on the highway where if the people come, we'll arrest them when they come. Think about it. They're not even saying, hey, we're going to go in and with guns blazing and try to take these guys out. They're saying, when these guys want to go out for a lovely day on the town and go shopping, we're going to have a highway thing set up, a blockade where we stop them and then we arrest them. And then it just so happens that there was an incident at one of these things. We don't know all the details to be clear here, but the guy who ended up getting killed, he's the one who said, look, I'll repeat the quote, "I have no intention of spending any of my days in a concrete box. There are things more important than your life, and freedom is one of them." It's almost like they're letting you know. In this example, too, they're letting you know. They talked about a bloodbath. They talked about how there's going to be a gunfight. What you're going to do when the militia comes for you, FBI. These are direct threats, man. These are direct threats. And how about this irony on top of all of it? They say, well, small government, liberty, that's what we're fighting for. Their armed takeover and occupation is costing over $100,000 a day. That's what it's costing the government. because you need constant monitoring of the situation. You need people from state government, local government, and federal government all there, taking care of stuff and trying to negotiate. And that's another thing. The FBI was like, okay, we're going to negotiate. They were like, no, we're not going to negotiate. Then what the fuck are you doing? We want our demands met. What the fuck are your demands? You know what this all stems from? It all stems from there were ranchers in Oregon who burned trees on their land, and then it went over to federal government land, and they burned acres of federal government land. Now that's against the law, so they brought them to trial for that, and they brought them up on charges for that. And then they did it twice. They did it again, and they did it during a no-burn period when the government said, look, you can't do it. We're trying to take care of an out-of-control fire here. They started burning as well, and it got over onto government land, and it burned some trees. So they got, I think it was 5 years in jail. Now, look, that's debatable as to whether or not that's too long. There was a mandatory minimum involved. I tend to lean against mandatory minimums across the board. I mean, we talk about how it's wrong for drugs all the time. So, the sentence is, it's debatable. It's not like it's an open and shut case. I sympathize with you if you think they're being a little too harsh in that respect. But this is not how you address it. And then when they do this, they get so much leeway from the state government, local government, and federal government. And then an incident happens where one of the guys who said, I'm ready to die, ends up getting killed. And then they double down and they're like, no, we're going to come after the FBI now. There's going to be a bloodbath now. No. This is getting out of control. We got to de-escalate this situation, man. There's a laundry list of crimes now that they're guilty of that the government knows about because we got them on video. They're destroying more government property, tearing down fences, you name it. Just an endless list of stuff that they did wrong. So some of them have been arrested. Okay, there was another one, John Ritzheimer, who was arrested as well. He fled to Arizona. They caught him. So this isn't going to end in a positive way for them, and they need to know you're not fucking heroes. Okay, they try to make it a constitutional issue. What the fuck does this have to do with the Constitution? Tell me what amendment. Tell me what specifically in the Constitution your beef is. Get over yourselves. You're not heroes. You're not founding fathers. You're right-wing kooks, and eventually all of you will get arrested, as it should be, and now you should spend a tremendous amount of time in jail for what you did here, because doing violence in the name of a political or religious goal, there's a term for that, it's called terrorism, and perhaps we should start using it now when discussing you.